Can someone's life be radically changed? Welcome to the 2020 New Testament Challenge. Today we're in Acts chapter 9, and here we have Saul, and his life was radically transformed. Now, people's lives can be changed in lots of different ways. Their life can be changed with a brand new job, or with a marriage, or even with a bad haircut. Life can be changed in many different ways, but what brings about real transformation? It's when they have a personal experience with Jesus, when they truly get saved. That's what we're talking about here today. Saul was persecuting the church. He was trying to get rid of the church in any way that he could. It says in Acts chapter 9, verse 1, that Saul had a consuming passion to kill the church. He had letters to round up Christians, to take them to Jerusalem, to put them into prison. But then in Acts chapter 9, verse 20, Saul had a consuming passion to tell people about Jesus. How did that happen? How did he go from being a persecutor to a preacher? What brings about that kind of transformation? Again, only Jesus can change someone's life. The question has always been, can a leopard really change its spots? Yes, Jesus can do anything. Let me tell you about a story that I heard that Billy Sunday, an old-time evangelist, once told. Now, he was an evangelist, but he first was a professional baseball player. Then when the Lord called him into ministry, he left professional baseball and he now is preaching to thousands of people in arenas. And he would always tell a story. He said that life is very much like a baseball diamond. First base is salvation, where you give your heart and your life over to Jesus. Second base is church membership, where you become part of a local body so that then you can learn and grow. Third base is service, where you're serving the Lord and you're being used by Him to change people's lives. And then home plate, that would be heaven, where you hear Jesus say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." As he would tell this kind of a story, he would then tell about the 1924 World Series. In that World Series, it was Washington against New York. There were 3 games that Washington had won and 3 games that New York had won. Now they were in the very last game. And in fact, they were at the last inning, he said, and the last out was going to be made. Goose Gosling was up at bat, and New York, they wound up to throw the pitch, and Goose Gosling hit a line drive, and it looked like it was going over the center field fence, but then it hit the wall, and it bounced back in field. During that time, Goose ran to first base, and he was making his way to second base when finally the outfielder grabbed the ball. Then he was on his way to third base as that throw was thrown all the way to home, as hard as that outfielder could throw. When he rounded third, he went towards home. Everyone in the whole stadium was standing on their feet. They knew that it was going to be a close call at home plate. Then, as Goose was reaching home plate, he slid into home. Well, the catcher had to reach high to grab the ball. Everyone knew that the ball was high and that the tag was going to be late, and Goose Gosling slid under. And everyone threw up their hands and they were cheering, and now the World Series had been won. People ran into the field. They were picking up the bases, throwing them in the air. And then when the dust settled, the umpire behind home plate had his fist up in the air and he was yelling, "You're out! You're out!" All those cheers from everyone that they were all excited now turned to, "Kill the ump! Kill that dumb blind ump!" Well, the umpire, he took the megaphone and he quieted the crowd and he said, "I call the runner out because he never touched first base." No one could believe it, but it was true. That's real life as well. We can be very involved in church. We can be doing great things. We think that we get to heaven and it's going to be weighted, our good versus our bad, but that's not what's going to get us there. It's, did we ever touch first base? Did we ever receive Jesus as our personal Savior? If you've never had an experience with Jesus, your life will never be changed. Your life will never be transformed. But just like Paul, if we have been transformed by Jesus, our lives will never be the same. Is anyone too far gone? No. Is any sin too great to be forgiven? No. Paul was a murderer, but he was forgiven. Paul persecuted the church, but he was forgiven because Jesus loved him and forgave him when Paul turned his life over to Jesus. The same can happen to anyone today. If we touch first base, we receive Jesus as our personal Savior, we can make it all the way to home and we'll hear Jesus say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Thank you for joining the 2020 New Testament Challenge.